Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're talking about a massive, frankly overdue, mindset shift in how we protect our most critical infrastructure. We're moving away from that impossible task of trying to prevent absolutely every single cyber attack. Instead, we're focusing on how to ensure that when systems are inevitably compromised, because let's face it, they will be, they can't trigger a physical catastrophe. It's a really fascinating pivot from pure IT security over to sheer operational survival, and I'm super excited to guide you through it. Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty terrifying thought. Imagine your facility's system is compromised right now. But here's the catch. The screens in your control room, they're lying to you. They're presenting a completely false normal. All the gauges are stubbornly in the green, the dials look totally fine, but underneath that digital illusion, a physical disaster is brewing. It begs the question, how on earth do you respond to an attack you can't even see? Our source material grounds this abstract threat in a really stark physical reality. They call it the tank overfill scenario, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Imagine a massive industrial tank silently overfilling because the automation system has totally lost its process coherence. The system is hacked, but normal operations appear to be humming along just fine on the monitors. It's a perfect example of why traditional cybersecurity just isn't enough when real-world physics are involved. Now look, process automation and operational integrity engineering are notoriously dense subjects, but thankfully, our source author totally gets that. I absolutely love this quote from them. I added enough visuals to bring it down to Donald Duck level for the fast reader before it becomes a novel. And you know what? That is exactly the approach we're taking today. We're taking these complex, textbook-level engineering concepts and making them super accessible. All right, here's our quick roadmap for today's explainer. We'll cover the cyber-physical threat, lay out a new response strategy, dive into the three-layer resilience model, tackle those tricky legacy brownfield systems, and finally, look at preventing physical catastrophe. Let's jump right into Section 1, the cyber-physical threat and the core challenge we're up against. Looking at the big picture, this comprehensive framework gives us a macro view of the entire journey. Moving from left to right, it starts with actually understanding the problem, like that tank overfill scenario where a false process picture develops without any obvious signs of an attack. Then, it flows right through your incident strategy, establishing clear roles, all the way over to the structural framework on the right. You see, resilience isn't just a piece of software you buy. It's a whole journey from problem awareness all the way to resilient design. Moving right along to Section 2, a new response strategy, and how we systematically handle this. The author breaks this approach down into 4 really clear steps. Step 1 is the challenge, basically waking up to the problem and accepting that a compromise is possible, and the real danger is delayed recognition. Step 2 is the response, meaning when an incident happens, you have to prioritize protecting the physical process first. Step 3 is the foundation. Resilience is a team sport, right? It requires shared responsibility across both management and engineering. And finally, Step 4 is the framework itself, designing the system from the ground up to be inherently resilient. Let's look a bit closer at that framework. Which brings us to Section 3, the 3-layer resilience model, or how we actually build out that resilient architecture. Breaking it down, these 3 layers represent a really smart progression of defense. Layer 1 is your system-centric stuff. This is your traditional IT security, and its goal is simply to reduce exposure and buy you time by making it tough to get in. But we have to assume the attacker will get in eventually. So we move to Layer 2, which is all about control authority. The goal here is detecting a loss of process coherence, basically noticing when the system stops making logical physical sense so you can maintain control even when trust is degraded. Finally, Layer 3 is physical consequence resilience. If Layers 1 and 2 completely fail, this layer's sole focus is to physically constrain escalation. Its goal is to literally limit the consequences of failure so a digital hack doesn't become a literal explosion. Now, the absolute linchpin in that middle layer is this idea of degraded trust. How do we even define that? Well, it's a state where an automation system is compromised, but it hasn't completely crashed. Think of it like a rogue employee. You know, they clock in, they sit at their desk, they look incredibly busy, but they're quietly deleting files and causing chaos behind the scenes. Your system is doing the exact same thing. It's putting on a great face while totally betraying you. Layer 2 is all about catching that rogue employee by making degraded trust actionable. All right, Section 4, fixing legacy brownfield systems. Time to talk about the very real challenges here. Because let's face it, the reality of brownfield systems is just incredibly messy. We are talking about environments plagued by literal decades of integration. You've got shared networks, a wild mishmash of mixed vendor systems, and ancient legacy controllers. But the absolute worst part? Undocumented dependencies. Things are connected in ways literally nobody remembers anymore, and you often hit constraints where you can't even change a single setting without shutting down the entire plant. Trying to just drop a perfect modern security architecture onto this? Yeah, nearly impossible. So, what's the play here? Well, the crucial relieving point is that you shouldn't aim for immediate architectural perfection. Actually, scratch that. Aiming for perfection will just lead to total paralysis. Instead, the practical route is a maturity path. You start by identifying the most dangerous scenarios first, you map out who or what has the authority to trigger them, and you prioritize your high-consequence retrofits. You just improve the broader architecture over its life cycle, step by step, focusing heavily on the absolute worst-case physical scenarios first. And finally, Section 5, Preventing Physical Catastrophe. This right here is the ultimate goal. Comparing these two approaches really nails the shifting thinking we need. Over on the left, we have cybersecurity. Its job is incredibly important, right? It reduces the probability of compromise. It tries its best to stop the hacker from getting in. But on the right, we have operational integrity engineering. Its whole job is to reduce the probability of catastrophe. It accepts the reality that a hacker might just get past the firewall, but it ensures that even if they do, the tank doesn't overflow, the valve doesn't burst, and the plant actually stays safe. They are two halves of the same whole, but operational integrity is what keeps the physical world from falling apart when trust in the digital world is completely gone. So I want to leave you with this one final provocative question to chew on regarding your own infrastructure. Look beyond your firewalls and your password policies for a second. If your automation is completely compromised today and the screens are actively lying to your operators, what physical mechanisms are actually in place to stop a catastrophe tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this new framework helps you build true, robust resilience into your systems.